Hello, everyone. I am Paul Mosu. This video that I'm making is a video that is very important to me. It tells my story, my experience, my observation, and my discovery on a on my discovery in jail for 43 days. I was charged with I was accused of crime that I did not commit. In fact, it was a truncated and trumped up charges by the Nigerian police force. The accusations were from the complainant, Mr. Emeka, that I did business with. He gave them his own part of the story. He told them his own part of the story. Of course, there were untruths, some of the untruth from his stories. The police, under normal circumstances, and I think the best practice in the world, because the police is an organization that was or that is formed to broker peace among two disputing parties. And in the process of brokering peace among people who are quarreling, they need not to side one party against the other. They need to look at the matter from an independent point of view, objectively, where they look at the matter from this side, the complainant, then from the accuser, and have formed their own separate independent opinion on it. And based on facts and evidences they pick from the two sides, then they have an independent report on the story. So that would help if the matter goes to court, so that the court would see that independent input from the police, whereby they say what they had, what they saw, what would they think is the problem, independently, without interference from any of the parties. But it is not so in this country. It is not so. In Nigeria here, the person who goes to the police to complain or give allegation will likely have an upper hand, whereby the police will not even bother to listen to the other side of the story. They would only focus on the story of that first person and use such information against the accused, even in the court. So I personally face this kind of situation by the Nigerian police, and to be honest, it was not pleasant, because I spent 43 days in jail. Secondly, I also spent over 2 years, from 2020 to 2020, from September 14, 2020, the day I was arrested, to October 14 or 13 rather, when I was released from jail. Then I began a legal battle from then till June 8th, Thursday, June 8th, when the matter was eventually discharged by the magistrate court. In all these processes, they were not pleasant, because financially I lost because I had to hire an attorney. I had to to keep on going to court whenever the adjourned date was on. I need to go to court. I must go to court. I must be there because the police charged the matter as a criminal offense, which simply means as a criminal matter, if I was not able to prove my case, of course the burden of evidence is on the police to prove that I proved the charges they gave me. But if I was not able to defend myself, I would go to jail. I would go to prison, and I will serve in prison on this matter. So I'm happy that I defended myself. The matter was discharged. Now, in this video, I'm going to tell my own part of the story. Why I'm telling my own part, though I will still bring in the part of the story of the accuser from my own point of view. Even when I collect the judgment from the court, I will still bring it out and tell his own part from what he said to the court. It's as much as I can say, but from my own view. But from my own view that I'm saying it, I want everyone, to hear the story and see for themselves why Nigerian police should allow this kind of situation, whereby in a glaring situation like this, a matter that if look properly, none of us, the accuser and the complainant, will spend a dime looking for stress, because the police would have trashed the matter. It's a very simple matter. You get it very simple. Most would have trashed it, and none of us would have this. And if the accuser thinks that he has a case, he can go to court and file a suit as a civil suit. And in a civil suit, you don't need to go to prison. You only, highest if you lose, you pay damages. That is that. Highest if you lose, you pay damage. In a civil suit, you don't need. But in a criminal case, though the bar, the court set is very high, it is actually until the burden of evidence is on a reasonable doubt that the accused committed the crime. While civil suit is preponderance of evidence by the appellant, by the appellant, that is the complainant. So by the in these two situations, if the accused goes to court and say, okay, yeah, he has a point, he will breach his own, then I'll bring my own evidence, then the court will weigh both of them. Then if they think that I breach a contract, then I'll be required to pay damage. So, but if in this case where the police charge me as a criminal case, and I was not able to, I did not know what to do, I might decide to, let's find a way to settle out of court. You begin to pay for what you did not, you did not consume. You begin to settle with the accuser and settle the police, or you could not, you don't have money to, then before you know it, this matter will be something that you go to prison for, and for no important reason for it to happen. So here is the summary of the case, of the matter. I myself look at it as a price disagreement between I am the buyer and my supplier, somebody who supply me book, because I sell fairly used books. I am the buyer, and the complainant supply me books as my supplier. So we happen not to reach a price, like you go to buy bread, and both the seller and the buyer say, I cannot sell this bread this amount to, because it's too, the price is too low. This other say, I cannot buy this bread this amount to, the price is too high. And this is what actually the police took and changed it, that there was a fraud, there was a pretense to defraud, there was a pretense, and there was an intention to defraud the complainant, and also to convert the complainant property. It just like I stole the when we are just talking about price here, that I stole the person's property and confiscated it. But when the matter goes to trial, they were not able to show that there was anything like stealing of property. The magistrate said, she did not see anything like stealing or false pretense here. That what she saw was some kind of breach of contract, which, if the police has even done their work, the magistrate would have even known how the breach of contract happened, what really happened, in fact, it will be very clear to the magistrate, because in trial, the trial is an art to get to the bottom of the matter, to get the truth. So by bringing out evidences which under normal circumstances they must have done independently, they would have known the truth, because the truth is not high, it is not far, it is open. So what happened was that, just as I said, the police IPO charged me with a crime of obtaining a makeable by trick and false pretense. So my case, as I said, it happened on September 14, when I was arrested, then taken to the police. Then I faced also a very, very painful experience with the lawyers at the court, because initially I did not engage my lawyer, because I did not prepare for this matter. I did not even know that I was going to face a situation like that. So it happened so suddenly. So for me, before I could have gotten a good lawyer that would stand for me, I had already acquired, court lawyers, those that is normally known as charge bail lawyers. So my experience with her was very, very bad, because I had to spend from the 36 days. My matter was with her for 36 days to perfect a bill, despite that she collected money. But for her it took 36 days for her to perfect the bill, so that I could be released. So a bill perfecting condition that she would have done at most a week or two, so it took 36 days, the matter in her hand. So there was no police investigation of my case. The case had no police investigation at all. It was just them hearing from the accuser and taking the matter up. So another experience which I really want to say, apart from the personal damages, personal loss that I accrued from this matter, both my liberty that was taken away from me for 43 days, and also my financial loss for the court case and everything. There is a discovery I discovered. I discovered that a lot, if not all, the cases that the police handles were similar to my matter, whereby no investigation. When I say no, I mean, you mean thorough. Even though the matter, no matter how frivolous the matter is, but thorough investigation, whereby there will be proper analysis of information, bringing of evidence that pin the accuser to the crime. police don't know anything about all this. They don't bother themselves investigating matter. And because of this, a lot of innocent people are languishing in jail. They are languishing in jail. A lot. It is a matter of if you have a lawyer, your lawyer would be of an assistance to you. But if you don't have a lawyer, you don't have money, you don't know what to do, you are not zero for you, you just go to jail straight. It's very as simple as that. You just go to jail straight. Either you did it or you did not do it. The police will even facilitate you going to jail. Or even up till now, what I'm seeing from even all our security apparatus, they just don't do thorough investigation. We hear of the EFCC bundling 43, bundling 56, bundling people. I mean, where are there thorough investigation even before arresting these people? Are there thorough investigation after arresting them? Why is investigation important? Investigation actually, honestly, was invented. It was as an invention. It did not just start with humanity right from the ancient. It was invented around the Middle Ages in Europe. It was because then the rich in Europe were accusing the poor on things that they did not do. They will accuse them, and before you know it, they will be galloped. They will be killed. They will be executed. So if somebody who is rich and the person feel that somebody that is poor has, for any reason, we just accuse the person, and before you know it, the person will be executed. So because of that, there were now laws set in Europe during that time that before an accuser would be executed, or before there would be an investigation, and then the investigation would become a document which will be used in litigate. That is, you argue the matter, litigate, you argue the matter in the court. So using your evidence. So right from that time till now, this has become a standard whereby before an accused will be subjected to legal executions or legal penalty, there will be proper investigation and findings of evidence that would pin the crime to the accuser. So without that, there is no point, there is no need for you to maybe even arrest the person in the first place. If you don't have evidence, what is the point of arresting the person? What is the point of keeping the person liberty constricted? Because you have not done your work. If you don't have evidence, there's no point even arresting an individual. And if the society can be able to ensure that before police people arrest, there will be proper investigation, there will be thorough investigation, and if police do not have such that they will be penalized, you will see that the society will work. Things like NSAS will never happen. Things like police brutality will never happen because before police brutalize you, they would have concrete evidence against you for an action which you violate the law. But if they do not have concrete evidence against you, they brutalize you, they will face serious consequences. So with proper investigation, it will really stop a lot of injustice. It will really stop a lot of injustice. But with this kind of situation whereby the police do as they wish without investigation, we are just like in banana republic, whereby anything goes, and a lot of innocent people are languishing in jail because of that. So in this my experience, I will tell the story of some people. In fact, this story has been with me for these several years because I don't want to talk about it until my matter is addressed in the court, so that it will not be as if I'm preempting the court, or I am trying to interfere with the process whereby it will be against me, you understand? So I didn't only want to bring out the matter before then. So they were painful matter, they were painful experiences, because when I share it, you will see they were really painful experiences. So after this several years, I don't know how the victims of these people are now. I have not contacted them since that 2020 till now, but I hope that all is well with some of them. But I will bring out their matter. I will bring out and tell the world about them, so that let the world, if because of what they have, they experience, that there will be a kind of revolution within this police system, whereby there will be emphasis on proper investigation and thorough investigation of a matter before an arrest is made. That will be fine. This not even having a thorough investigation is also working against the police force, because if you don't have thorough investigation, you cannot stand a smart lawyer. You cannot stand a smart lawyer. Even if the person did the crime, and you don't have investigation and evidence against him, you can't stand a smart lawyer. A smart lawyer will just trash your case easily, very easy. As a bookseller, I have customers who are lawyers, and one of these lawyers once told me that that as long as a murderer is able to pay him the amount he wants, that the murderer will go scot-free. It was during this experience I realized that the lawyer could tell the truth, because the police don't even do proper investigation to have concrete evidence in the first place. So what are you going to tell the court, that this person, when there is little or nothing to prove that this person did the crime? So it could be very, very true. It told me that if, as long as they were able to pay him the amount he wants, that he will make sure that they will not go to prison, that they will not go to, in fact, he concretely said they will not go to. So there too, in police cell in jail, I was able to see people who were able to buy off their crime. Rather than the police, they bought it off, and they did the crime. They did the crime, they confessed it, but they paid their way out to the public. Pay their way out. One, you don't have it. Secondly, within the system, it does not work. You just easily pay your way out. So, but in a proper system where there is an investigation, it will be difficult for people to just, who are being accused, who have with concrete evidence, to pay their way out, because it's just a matter of the other lawyer, the accuser's lawyer, the defendant lawyer, to look at why this guy is out when he has such evidence against him. And but because there is no evidence, it's easy. He just made and tell story, and everybody goes. The person will go out there continue with the crime. You understand? So our legal system, yes, is not mature. It is very, very below par, but we start from somewhere. We can start from somewhere. We can start from ensuring that the police system has every facility, everything they have to investigate problem. So I'm going to discuss on this heavily too, but not on this present. I'm going to discuss heavily on this. If it is a little quarter that I would input for the development of the country, because I would love a Nigerian whereby the judicial system is very solid in comparison with developed, solid judicial system, whereby the innocent will not be languishing in jail. When people say innocent are in jail, it's not joke. Innocent people are in jail. I know that there are still people who are still, but a lot of criminals, they don't go to jail. If I want to be a criminal, there's nothing that will make me go to jail, because I know already my way. I know. I know. So there'll be no that will make me go to jail. There were a lot of innocent people at the one languishing in jail. It does not take rocket science to know what is going on, and you stay outside and do whatever crime you want to do, and nothing will happen. But if there is some investigation, this will not be like that. People who commit the crime will go and face it. Why people who do not will not be there? So it will be minimal. Maybe it will be by utmost mistake for it to happen. So that is how it's done in other developments. But in Nigeria here, it is upside down. So let me go back to the story. The event leading to the 43 days in jail began some months before I was arrested. It started some months before I was arrested on September 14, 2020. I encountered Emeka sometime around May of that year when he came to my book stand at Oshodi. I wrote a report of it in 2020, which I am actually reading from here. The report was after my release from jail, so I quickly wrote it within 3 or 4 days. So I'm actually reading events, what I wrote then in 2020. So he came to pick up a novel and asked the price. I told him that the price was 400 and he priced 100 naira. I replied to the 100. He changed the price. He changed the topic from book pricing, that he didn't want to buy the book. He said that he came to know how much the books are sold for. He has similar books in huge quantity to sell. I was a bit dismayed at his action, for I knew that he must be a typical Igbo man to behave that way. I had taken him to a customer who came to buy books. He just changed to a bookseller. Mostly the books will use style to approach issues others would hit the point on. Instead of him categorically stating the reason for his coming, he went book pricing to know the price to sell his books. Anyway, I heard the conversation with him and tried to find out more about the kinds of books he had. He told me that there were novels, textbooks, children books, mathematics and biology, among others similar to the ones I saw. I asked if the fellow used books were clean, and he answered yes. I also asked if he was in charge of the sales, and he also said yes. Then I asked about the price, if they were cheap. He said that he would sell them well for me, and he thinks he could have a long-term business deal where I could become a major seller of his books. That was a little patronizing. We exchanged contact. I went to the place he offloaded the books at Abulado to see the books. He discharged the 40-feet container of books in 2 shops at the building materials market at Abulado bus stop. One of the shops were filled to the door with books, and the other shop was filled a little more than half the shop length. Novels were the major books he had. Almost the whole books were novels of different kinds, sizes, and genres. The problem with novel heavy books is that novels don't sell now like before. There are heavy competition, poor reading culture, and perpetual recession inhibiting sales of novels. Competition for novels has increased recently. Readers can easily download apps and have access to a huge number of novels for free, other than the cost of data. Nigerians are continuously losing their reading culture. Schools groom a generation with less interest in education, so leisurely read books like novels are the least kinds of books people put their hard-earned money in. I wanted to know how much he would sell the books, so I picked up one of the novels and asked him how much. He replied 1,000 naira. I burst into laughter. He obviously didn't know how much books are sold, so I told him that the books are sold for 150 naira in warehouses. Then I told him to get a seller who knows the price of books to assist him. He asked me about my book selling history, and I told him that I have been a bookseller for over 10 years. The years of selling books have allowed me to read on a variety of ideas, and I have come to know much about life and about how things ought to work well. Then I went to tell him that I take courses on business administration at the University of the People, an online-based education organization. He asked if I could become his bookseller assistant because he has no bookselling experience. I asked him how much would I earn for the service. He told me that I should not worry my heart about how much he would give me. I should just bring out my mind and honestly do a fantastic job for him. He would repay me immensely. He went on that he is an open-minded person who appreciates good gestures from people. He rewards people handsomely when they give their best to do a good job for him. Could he be fibbing? How honest was he? Well, I just concluded that in as much as I honestly do my best assisting him, he would not fail to repay me with good. At the same time, I saw an opening opportunity from the offer of me helping him to sell a 40-feet container of books. I've been working on a dream of making a massive impact to change the poor education narrative in Nigeria since 2016. The education system is terrible and in complete decadence. The product of the school system are more ignorant than enlightened. The situation results in prevalent ignorance, which makes it difficult for Nigerians to solve problems. Problems that should be straightforward to solve become unnecessarily complicated. For example, the problem of poor epileptic power supply can easily be solved if the nation is producing highly skilled electrical engineers. They will run the power generating, transmitting, and supplying systems so efficiently that each household can have adequate and constant electricity. Similar incompetence can be said of every other sector: the police, the lawyers, the economists, the accountants, the movie makers, the politicians, the list goes on. An average Nigerian is heavily ignorant, cannot think critically, and often blunders when solving problems. To cure ourselves of this malady, we have to make a high-quality education system available, accessible, and affordable. I thought of ways this solution can become a reality. I figured out that building high-impact schools, super schools, should be a way forward. Unlike the current school system where teachers are incompetent and poorly trained, schools are having inadequate learning and teaching method and materials, non-conducive learning environment, poorly designed curriculum, and the poor structured education monitoring body. The super school system would have a highly trained world-class teachers, fully supply of learning and teaching materials, state-of-the-art learning and teaching environment, multi-dimensional curriculum, and well-run education quality establishing organization. I am working on the plan that several businesses would be established and efficiently run so that their mode of operation can be copied and be used to run the super schools. Also, funds from this organization can be used to run the complex super schools. I've written a book about my dream, though I'm not yet to publish it. I am working to build a platform through which my book will be published. Thus, when a maker offered me the opportunity to sell his book, as well as the chance of me to become a long-term business partner with him, I had a feeling that I can use the opportunity to set up the first business book selling outlet to kick off. I accepted his offer and got into work immediately. I told him that I would do some separations. The books that wholesale buyers would likely pick up quickly would be stacked more visibly, while books that were less likely to be bought would be at the rear. He suggested that the separated books that buyers would likely pick up quickly could be in a different shop. He arranged for a new shop to be open so that those books are there. He also made arrangements for a helper to assist me with the job of categorizing the books. They took out the boxes of books and I did the separation, then took them back. I sorted about 70 boxes. I discovered that the extent to which novels were numerous was pretty much. He told me that deeper part of the book were more of textbook. When I saw a bit of the inside section of the 40-feet container books that novels were plenty, I suggested that clearances of the books would be a more appropriate than the ineffective task of sorting and selling the books to fellow booksellers. He asked me if I could bring buyers who would buy all the books at once. I told him that I would try. I called one of my colleagues, After I thoroughly described the books to him, he decided that he would focus on buying the best-selling novel section of the books. I arranged with Emeka on the day that we agreed to come. On that day, he couldn't gain access to the book, for the day was a market off day due to the gradual easing of the lockdown. Another day was chosen, but we never made it as my colleague's wife gave birth to a baby. I called another woman who came and saw the books. She commented on the novel-heavy nature of the books. She sells in a warehouse, so she knew that the books weren't so easy to sell. However, she inquired about the price. I asked Emeka. He replied that I should give her an initial price of 12 million naira. I told him that she would be scared. He reduced the price to 7 million naira. The woman was scared of the high price, and she asked me which books are there to sell to make 7 million naira. I urged her to make her offer, which she priced at 2.5 or 3 million. Emeka told her that the price was not up to what he spent to clear and warehouse the books. The woman left and said that if Emeka changed his mind about the price, he could call her. After a day or two, Emeka asked me to call her to come and make payment. When I called her, she said that she was no longer interested in the person that she thought would buy the books, and when I called her, she said that she was no longer interested in the person that she thought would buy the book, and said that the price was too high. That particular sentence should read like she was no longer interested for the person that she thought would buy the book. Said that the price was too high. I called another buyer who came and saw the books. He liked the books, but he had no money to pay immediately. He begged Emeka to leave the books on credit for him. He wanted Emeka to trust him and allow him to move the books to Surulere. From there, Emeka can monitor the sales. I cautioned Emeka on that idea, and at the same time, I told him that I did know the man before. So if he decided to do any business with the man, he should know that he decided on his own. He should disassociate me from the man. He said that he was not a baby businessman. He eventually did not do business with the man. I didn't bother to look for another buyer. After a while, Emeka asked me if I was not going to get more books. I told him that I didn't have any more people to call. I told him that he could call the booksellers at Ojuelegba to come and select. On the day that a group of Ojuelegba booksellers came to select books, he called me and I went. I joined them to select books. After we had selected, he told me to cost their books, which I did, and they paid. I told him to cost my own selection. He replied that I should cost mine by myself. I set them out according to different price categories. Then I called out the prices on the different sets. He found out that some of the sets that I had given my colleagues at a particular price, I had lowered the price a little for myself. He asked me why didn't I give myself the same price that I gave to my colleague. I replied that I intentionally decided to lower the price a little. I wanted him to sell the books differently to me. We have built differently to me. For we have built some relationships so far. He disagreed with my point and insisted that if I must buy any book from him, I should give myself the same price that I give to my fellow booksellers. I told him that he should cost the book for me as he pleases. He did the costing and reshuffling. Then I selected the categories that I like and told him to move in the other books into the warehouse. This event is very important in that he had a choice not to sell according to my negotiating condition. He is the owner of the book and has a major veto power on how his books or goods will be sold. I, as a buyer, come to buy with negotiating conditions that suit or favor me. When I gave him my conditions, he had the option of agreeing or disagreeing. If he agreed with my conditions to buy, I buy. If he disagrees, I had the option of agreeing with him or not. If I agreed with his condition, as was the case with me insisting that I should buy his book the same way that the other books buyers bought theirs, then I agreed to choose those that were fair to me and I left the other that were not. Business is not done by force. It is a matter of agreeing and not agreeing. When the buyer and seller agree, then transaction is done, business is done. Other events that eventually took place which brought the issue of my unfair arrest and unfair jailing bordered on agreeing or not agreeing. The books that I bought and paid on that day filled the carton that I took, and as the custom, I raised up the leaves of the carton and filled up the carton. Then I tore up a piece of carton to properly cover the top of the carton. Then I sellotaped the carton and moved the books that would have been in two carton into one. I reevaluated my purchase and found that the purchase was a bit on a high price, and I decided that any other purchase would be according to my advantage. If Emeka did not agree with my condition to buy, I would not bother to engage in the business transaction. When he called for me to come and buy books. I told him that I would buy only if he would sell the books at an average price of 100 naira per copy. I would buy up to 500 copies. He blurted out that if I was pricing beans cake, akara in our local language. I replied that I was exercising my right as a buyer. If he agreed, I buy. If he disagreed, I keep my money. Now that I am not sure of the viability of his business, the long-term aspect, another opportunity came up through a supplier that I had done business with some long time ago. Told me about a 20-feet container of books he had access to. Thus, if I would be interested. The books were at a Ikorodu terminal. I was interested and I asked about the price. He told me to raise 1 million naira. I went to the terminal to check on the book, but I didn't see the book. For the custom man in charge of giving access to the terminal didn't come on that day. However, I went with a sample of the book. I called Emeka and told him about it. When I got him, I told him to buy the books and we would agree on how much I would sell it, for I didn't have the money to buy the book. Emeka told me that he would buy it, but he was not in Lagos at that time. When he comes back, which was a couple of days later, he would come to see the book. I called the fellow bookseller and told him about the book. The man replied that he would like to buy only if they were out of the terminal. He likes buying books from which he would select. Thus, if the books were offloaded at a particular location, he would be there to buy them. He didn't want to risk his hard-earned fund on books that were still at the terminal. When the day that Emeka told me that he would return passed, I called him and inquired if he was still interested to buy the books, to which he replied that he didn't have up to such an amount to invest in books. If the seller will sell the 20-feet container for 500k, he would buy. I told the book supplier that I was not going to buy the books from the terminal. Instead, if the books were out of the terminal, I can buy them. Then, after a while, the book seller called me and told me that a 20-feet container had been offloaded in a man's sitting room. The man intended to quickly sell off the books as it was inconveniencing him and his family. So I should quickly come and buy the books, and I should be ready to move the books out of his house quickly, for the man wants them to be moved out of his sitting room so that falling book won't haunt his 2-year-old toddler. I promised the man that I would meet him on a Thursday of the week. Coincidentally, Emeka called me and told me that his books are still sitting at the shop, no selling, and shop rents are accumulating. I replied to him with empathy that he should call up the Ojole Bible sellers. He told me that some of them will come on a Wednesday. Then he hit on the point that he has something to tell me. I was all ears. He said that he thinks that I can reach an agreement with him on how much I would pay him for the 40 feet container. Then I should begin to sell the books, having in mind that I should reach the set price, and when the set price is reached, the remaining books can be mine. I tried to clarify his statement by emphasizing his point more precisely, that he want me to take charge of the selling of the books on a credit business model where as I sell, I will pay until I sell up to the agreed target. That sounds like I'm getting back on my initial business with Emeka. As I had touched on previously, I am working on a strategy to set up my first business model for the book selling organization. If I kick up a business with Emeka, then I buy the Kurodu books and I will join the books together, have a more variety of books to sell, then move up from selling at the bus stop where I have been selling at retailing model to selling in a warehouse to other booksellers. This upward movement strategy will become essential based on current realities. Downstream individual customer selling, book selling that I have done for over a decade has successfully given me the opportunity to acquire an amazing knowledge base from books that I have access to. Due to my now developed awareness sense, I envisioned a very complex way of solving the poor education menace Nigeria is facing. I mentioned that I need to set up and run several organizations through which quality education system will be funded so that the establishment of super schools where kids will be educated in a complex, deep system of quality teaching and learning. Thus, my business administration study at the University of the People will give me the essential skill to run complex corporate organizations. Then when Emeka business kicks up again, I thought nature is giving me the opportunity to set up the first book selling organization. Emeka becomes a benefactor and investor whose equity investment will be covered by corporate insurance policy so that if the organization will liquidate, his equity investment is well protected. So I went to Emeka on Wednesday of the week to discuss the business. The talk was short and simple and straightforward. He told me to raise 3 million naira for him on the 40 feet container book. I disagreed and said that since I am coming in on a credit level, I will try to be as fair as possible. I will aim at selling out 2.8 million naira. I went up and agreed with him on that price. Then the next point on the agenda was terms and conditions. Anyway, the terms and conditions were for us to have equal security tools over the books, where he has his own set of keys and I mine too. So when I or he wants to get access to the books, each of us must be able to notify the other. No one should have a single power to access the books. Then I told him that I would move a little fraction of the books from Abulado to Chile too. He agreed with me on that. We went together and I began to select some of the books. He called out to me and told me that why shouldn't I just move the books in cartons without selecting. I told him that the maiden books that I want to move were a little fraction of the whole, and I intend to test the transportation cost. However, apart from the fact that I was taking just a little fraction of it, I expected some Ojo labor buyers to come to Oshodi and buy. I expected to see something that they would like to buy. Also, I had no intention that the agreement will cut off soon. So I focused on selection based on moving with the knowledge that they are already mine. So when Emeka told me to not pick the books but carry the books in carton, just like that, whether they are torn books or books of other languages, I disagreed and gave him the condition about which he agreed with me. Then when I had done picking the books, I began to pack them up into cartons. As I began to pack up the books, he called me out again and told me that I should write the titles of the books. I was a little aghast and stared into his eyes as I told him that failure use books in warehouses like his, I had it done writing titles. He bought the 40-feet container as a whole. No individual book was written its title. I told him that I will write down the number of titles that I am moving out with him. It is important to note that both buying conditions that I gave to a maker were not forced on him. It was a matter of agreeing or not agreeing. Whatever decision it takes fall on me to agree or not to agree. When he agreed, then I would engage in the business, for he has the greater veto power of his business. Thus, I only negotiate, and when both of us agree, I do business. But if he didn't, I had the option of agreeing with him or not. Thus, when I was done packing the cartons, there were 10 cartons altogether. They were medium-sized card boxes and didn't bother to sellotape them. He told me to write down a kind of agreement of understanding that proved we had a business going on. So I did. I wrote that I was in business deal with Emeka for 40 feet assorted books. Also, I planned that the payment should be completed in 60 days. Finally, I wrote the terms and conditions that we agreed with. In another paper called the Inventory Act, I wrote that I am moving out 10 cartons of assorted books. On that same day, I agreed with him that he should buy the 20-feet container books, which I would go to Ikorodu to check the next day, being Thursday. He told me to arrange for a warehouse in Oshodi where the books would be offloaded and sold. The main reason why I wanted him to buy the books was for him to add good variety to his novel-heavy books. There should be textbooks, children books, philosophical books, religious books, dictionaries, Bibles, among others. When I was done writing the agreement and inventory paper, which I signed and Emeka signed, I began to look for a vehicle to move the books. It was difficult for me to get transportation, so I put my thinking cap on. I got a Hausa man load carrier who moved the books on his push truck to the express, and I helped him to move the bus across to the other side of the highway, where I got an almost filled commercial transportation bus, popularly known as Danfo, that moved I and my bus to Oshodi. When I got to Oshodi, I packed up the bus and moved out to arrange for a warehouse where the Ikorodu books would be offloaded. After arranging for the warehouse, I called the maker and told him my findings, which he approved and urged me to brief him on the next day's business at Ikorodu. When I got to Ikorodu the next day, I saw the books. Over 300 cartons of books covered half of the seller's parlor. I examined the books. That they were a proper mixture of varieties of books, textbooks, mainly medical books, kids books, philosophical books, historical books, novels, others, among others. I talked with the seller. He told me that the price was 600k. My initial price was 300, and finally we agreed at 550, of which I would pay him 500k, and which I would pay him 500k and 50k to the man who led me to the bush. I called the maker and told him about what I found, the kinds of books, the nature, the country they came from, and the purchase price. He told me that he was coming, and I let him know that the seller demands immediate purchase and removal of the books from his sitting room due to the danger the book posed to his little case. He reaffirmed me that he was on his way. As I waited for him to come, I began to make arrangements for the vehicle that would move the books to Oshodi. He came and saw the books. He asked if the books were a good mixture, and I replied yes. He asked how much I think I would realize on the book. I put forward an estimate of 1.2 million. Then he asked how much would he profit from the deal. I told him that after raising the investment principal, I will raise a 200,000 naira profit for him. At that, he asked me to come out and have a private talk with him. I stood with him outside the house and listened to what he was about to say. He told me that the books that he has seen were owned by his friend, and the friend in question was owing him some big sums of money. He would ask his friend to release the books based only on the money that the friend was owing him. I made him repeat himself for me to be very clear, and he did repeat himself. He repeated himself. He did repeat himself. I asked if the friend was the man that the book was at his place, and he said no. I asked if the friend was the man that brought me to the place, and he said no. I told him it would be easy for him to get. I told him it would be easy for him to get the friend to move the books out of the man's house without both individuals clashing. I asked him if it would be easy. He said yes. I thought about the situation. I told him that if an unpleasant outcome arises, it will affect the man who took me there and me also. So I begged him to let go of the aspect of using the books for debt repayment. I advised that we should just do business as normal and move on. Then on another occasion, he could find a better way to collect his debt from his debtor. My begging fell on deaf ears. He didn't listen to me. He instead accused me of not being a smart business person. He called me an Abakaliki man and an Hausa man, and I fully agree with him. But I made it clear that I am taking courses that train me to run a global brand-like kind of business that not like a typical uneducated woman, gangster, Gestapo style of business. He called me an Hausa man, no problem. But I will not lie to hurt the man that led me to the location of the book, or the man that the books were in his house. At this point, I demanded that I see the man in question that was indebted to him to listen directly from him and know how he would agree to give the books on the debt he owned. He took me to a drinking joint and gave me a malt drink. Then he left to bring the man. As I finished the drink, I waited for him, and my mind was running through the situation. I explored the situation from a couple of different points of view. I situated myself in the position of the alleged debt-owning man who has a 20-feet container worth of books to sell. I asked if I was the man, would I release the books for free on the value of the debt? I would honestly do no such thing. Yes, this story is a bit long. Please bear with me. I'm trying to read fast so that I cover it. Instead, I would likely increase the price of the book so that I would use a stone to kill two birds. That is a cliche, though, meaning using one strike of action to accomplish two objectives. So, what about if the owing man decides to increase the price to pay off his debt as well as earn income into the sales of the books? He could change the price to 1 million, so we may decide not to continue with the business, and he lose for someone else to buy them. I also asked a question which the answer seemed hard to fathom. I don't know other ways for a maker to collect his money from his so-called friend, other than trying to collect the books that his so-called friend gave to someone else to sell for him. For instance, he could use the police to force to make him pay. So that a viable option is that not a viable option he could have explored? I saw more unconnected dots, which motivated me to quickly decide to go and tell the man that led me to the place about the new development. On my way to the house, I saw the man whose boots were in his house. I told him about the issue which had arisen and how I was dealing with the situation. He told me that he would equally like to see the debt-owing man that Emeka went to bring. I and him went to the drinking joint, and sat down on the chairs, and waited. Soon, Emeka came back alone, and I told him to relay the story to the bookseller. The man's name is Tony Eze. Tony and I listened to him. He said back what he told me. Tony made a couple of specific statements that if Emeka wants to do business, he, Tony, would be ready to do business with him. But if he wants a business to collect a debt with, then he, Tony, wouldn't take it. He wouldn't allow anybody to move a pin of a book out of the house without properly buying and paying for the books. At that, Emeka stood up and wanted to take his leave. Then he returned and asked Tony if he would accept an offer of 400,000 for the books. Tony rejected the offer and insisted that the price that he gave me was the last. Emeka left us and walked away. Then I followed him and began to talk to him, to think about what he was doing. I pointed to him that the price that I agreed with Tony was fair for the 25th container books. Moreover, I am the seller. I will realize his investment. Also, I know that how good the books were. We would make good earning from the business. All that I talked about fell on deaf ears. He accused me of being a poor business negotiator. He said that the price that I had agreed with him was too high for the goods. I responded and asked him if he has sold fairly used book before to know how prices are in the market. Then I referred him to his books that I had agreed to sell on a credit package that was too high also. Then I made it clear that if he backs out from this business deal, I will not continue with his own business also. I no longer trust him. He could not prove the existence of his debt-owing friend to me. I went on with the deal without him. I got the books and made some deposits. Then brought buyers who bought some of the books. But about 2 weeks of sales, I was not able to raise all the money of the books. Tony sold the books to someone else, and that was the end of the business deal. If Emeka had bought the book, we would have taken the book out from Tony's house to a warehouse where I will have a bigger chance and great opportunity to make sales. Then also, I will bring in the Abulado books to add up, and sales will continue on a long-term business. There were subsequent open opportunities to buy more books from Tony's source, including 40 feet Bible feet container. Emeka's insincerity damaged my business relationship with him. I didn't see a reason to continue the business at Abulado. I hate dealing with insecure fibers, for liars are like smokers who want to quit smoke, but they ought to just quit. But if a smoker quits and still go to light a stick, the smoker will likely continue to smoke. I fought very hard by Emeka's sincerity. I fear that the continuity with a long-term relationship will lead to more hurtful outcomes. Thus, my unequivocal decision was simple: end the relationship, which included the business deal with him. Now, the only business tie with him was the 10 cartons of books that I had taken the day before the Kurodu incident that led to the altercation between us, and the eventual ending of the business deal. I had called him to break away the set of case I used to lock the warehouse since the deal no longer holds. I also asked him to tell me how much the 10 cartons were worth. If the price is reasonable, I will pay. If the price is not, he would come and take his books back. A little time later, he asked me how much would I pay him for the 10 cartons. I replied 17,000 naira. He said if I was giving him feeding money. Then I told him that I have the books at my place, and if he does not want the 70,000, he can take back his book. I spent 7K to transport them from Abulado to Ocean. The total cost rose to 24K, making 2,400 per carton. Emeka said 13,000. Emeka said Sorry, that is mistake here. There is serious mistake. Emeka said, what? On 13th September, that was the day before the before Emeka came with the police officers to shut. I've lost some some writings, but let me continue from here. I will cover it up later. That was the day before Emeka came with police officers to arrest me. On Monday, 14th September 2020, Emeka called me to acknowledge the payment that I transferred to him the day before. Then he asked if I was at my place, and I said yes. He replied that he was on his way, and I replied okay. My thoughts were that Emeka was coming to talk with me. If he thinks that the amount was not enough, then I would give him back his books and he would give me back my money. I cannot pay more than the amount for novel, more than that. I cannot pay more than that amount for novel heavy books. I also had a fake feeling that he might bring the police into the issue. I gave him the money. Why should he call the police? I thought, but I was wrong. Nigerians' institutional deformity was the reason why a figure like Emeka could use the police force, an institution for peacemaking and protection of lives and properties of the Nigerian citizen, for personal, selfish, and great desires. I stood at the front of my business. Chris, my good friend, was with me. I bet in the umbrella, for the rain was falling. Then my phone rang. It was Emeka calling. I picked it up. He asked if I was there, and I said yes. Soon he came with some men. I greeted him with a handshake and led him to the umbrella. He said no, that he came with people. He pointed to them and told me to see one of them. Unknown to me that he was a police officer, he approached me and displayed his ID card. He called out his name and the police station that he came from. Then he ordered me to follow him to the station. I begged him to allow me to talk to my people, Chris and other friends who sat under my umbrella. I quickly let Chris know that I was going to the station with the police officers. Then I followed them. When I go to the police station, the first question the police officer, Inspector Adobulus, asked me where was Emeka's money. I replied that I had given him. He asked me how much. I replied 17,000 naira. The next question was if I or Emeka should give a price for the books Emeka sold to me. My replies fell on deaf ears as the series of other events happened quickly and were hard for me to control. The inspector told me to follow him. We got into the office of his boss. The madam sat at her executive chair, and when Officer Bullis and I got in, she asked us to be seated. I sat on a raised sofa. The sofa was long enough to contain two people. Bullis went close to her and narrated the issue in a short, cut-up manner. He emphasized how I had given Emeka 70,000 naira for the 10 cartons of the books, and Emeka claimed that 40,000 was the price for each carton. While I was in Bullis' office, which he shared with another fellow officer, he told me that Emeka claimed that I should pay him 400,000 for the 10 cartons of books. I told him that Emeka had given me a price for the 10 cartons. Emeka had asked me that what price would I pay him for the books. I told him 17K, but Bulus was uninterested in my side of the issue. The same lack of interest on my side of issue happened in the madam's office, as I noticed that the police were biased and unfair. I charged out I would call my lawyer and the matter should be taken to court. That perhaps led Bulus to take the matter to his superior. At the madam's office, injustice was let loose. At first, I sat on the red sofa. Emeka and his friend entered. As they got in, Officer Bulus called me to stand up from the chair. He ordered me to come and stand beside him while Emeka and his friends sat comfortably on the red sofa. Then he asked me to talk. I spoke about the issue from my initial interaction with Emeka to the business deal with the reason why I cut off the business deal, to the amount I paid Emeka for the 10 cartons of it. On hearing the price, the woman shouted, 17,000 for 10 cartons? Officer Bulus commented that I am a criminal, and even said that I have a lawyer and that the matter should be taken to court. The officer walked me out of his madam's office, where I was given an unequal pedestal to hear the issue between me and Emeka. I saw the situation to be a rape of justice in the madam's office, as the power bestowed upon her to right injustice and unfairness took undue advantage of me. They must have been induced or financially influenced by Emeka to look away from justice and fairness. As a complainant who took the issue to the police, he must have paid them well to buy their sense of justice, fairness, and responsibility, which they took an oath to serve and protect the freedom and justice of the Nigerian citizens. I was like a lamb brought in to be slaughtered and prepared for Emeka and his friend, and the Nigerian police officers stood to find them decimate me. It was a very painful incident, a truncating of justice by people who swore an oath of office to protect justice. On getting out of the madam's office, I was taken back to Bulus' office. He gave me a statement writing form to write my statement. I quickly went through the contact list on my phone to look for the number of a lawyer to call. I had not made prior preparation for an attorney that could help me in a time like this. Some of my customers are lawyers, and they do assist me either for free or paid service when I get into a problem. For example, I was unfairly evicted from my house by my former landlord when my rent remained for 2 months to expire. He collected complete rent from me when he knew that the house was going to be demolished by their developer, who happened to be their brother. I called one of my lawyer customer, and he gave me a good advice on how I could handle the situation. Unfortunately, the lawyer's number was not on my phone, so I looked for a lawyer customer on my contact list. There were a couple of lawyer customers on the contact list. One had bought a set of encyclopedias from me, and another had a recent relationship with me. He had bought some books from me. He told me to call him when I got more books on law, politics, and history, and he came to pick them up. When I had books on those fields, I called him, and he came with his car to buy the books. I took him to an ATM point where he got cash to pay me. He happened to be the person I called. I saw some level of sincerity that motivated me to call him. He told me to call him when I have books. I did, and he came. He told me that he would come with his vehicle to buy more books, and he did so. So I trust that he would assist me. More so, we had a very recent acquaintance. When I called him, he picked up and talked to me, acknowledging the fact that he had thought my call was book business. But this time, I wanted him to provide legal support, advice, and assistance to me. I quickly went through what had happened to him, and I told him that I was at the police station. He told me that he was currently in a hospital bed, and he could speak to the investigation police investigation police officer, that is IPO, Bulus. I gave him the IPO my phone to speak with the lawyer. They had a conversation that both seemed to be on each other. But soon, the IPO did a terrible thing that I will never forget. He lied to the lawyer and told him that I am a bad person who sneaked away several times from the police before I was caught. He said that I was tracked using a tracking device to locate me and caught me. The shock of the lie was on me when I collected my phone and debunked the lies to my lawyer. But the character defamation had been done, and the lawyer became more serious talking to me. As the police officer was reading out the lie, he smiled to Emeka, who was apparently satisfied that the officer was doing a well done job. The lawyer said that he could have helped me more if he was not for his health situation. He also did not bother to assist me by referring to another lawyer or advising me to try another lawyer. I didn't know that after I had written the statement, which I wrote in a completely confused state of mind, I would be detained. Bolu told me that I should follow him. I asked if I was going to the cell. He said in irony, no, that I'm a criminal. I should follow him. We went to the police front desk. I was asked to walk behind the counter. For the first time in my whole life to be taken behind the police counter, there were details. There, my details were taken. My sandals was taken off. My leather shoulder, my weather shoulder that I bought on the Wednesday that I had the business negotiation with Emeka at Abulado, who was taken from me, and my board and my phone were taken from me, and I was marched to the cell together with another who had a business transaction issue. There were about 5 men in the cell when we went in. One man had an issue with debt. One had an issue with defilement. One had an issue with his girlfriend's family, and the other 2 men who left the cell the same day were unjustly taken to the cell by the police. One clear truth was that none of us had a well-documented police investigation or report. The man who was accused of defilement of a 7-year-old girl told us that he never did what he was accused of. He said that the man who was initially accused of gang raping the girl had been released due to the man's connection with high public officials. He believed that he was accused as a result of previous feuds he had with the girl's mother. The woman thought it was nice to punish him for no apparent reason. She filled the mind of her daughter with made-up stories, which the girl stated to the police. The police didn't bother to find out if it was true or not. They believed the girl's side of the story was what happened. They locked up the man who was making preparation to marry his fiancée. The fiancée continually came to bring him food and could hardly contain her emotions. The 35-year-old man continuously retold the event of his arrest and how the police just listened to the complainant's story and no good evidence implicating him except the guest story that the girl told to the police officer. The man who had an issue with his girlfriend was arrested because his girlfriend's brother took him to the police to make him marry his pregnant sister. The man did not want to marry the girl, and he was willing to take care of the girl and the baby. But the police held him there to marry the girl. After the man continuously refused to agree on marrying into the family that locked him up in a police cell, they imposed on him bills he must pay to the girl. The man said that he transferred 200K to her and paid himself on the 4th day. By then, he had lost many of the businesses he could have engaged in. The man with the debt issue was given a certain amount to keep for a particular purpose that he agreed with the man who gave him the money. When the person who gave him the money came for it. He had loaned a food seller some of the money to run business with so as to collect the money back with interest. Unfortunately, when he needed it back, the money was not available. The owner of the money gave him a little more time, but still the person he loaned the money to could not raise the money back, and the owner could no longer hold on. Police held him there for 8 days till he found a way to raise some of the money and gave the owner some of the money. Like other cases, there was no investigation, and the man, being poorly educated, accepted his fate without minding the injustice done to him. The other 2 men came in on the fact that a police patrol team saw one of them, a driver of a company's truck, emptying his diesel tank in a mechanic shop. The police officer accused him of stealing his company's fuel. He told them that his fuel tank was leaking and he was at the mechanic to fix it. To fix the fuel tank, he has to empty the tank. The officers arrested him and the mechanic who wanted to repair the leakage. The mechanic was also a diesel seller. The police loaded gallons of diesel into their vehicle together with the 2 men and brought them to the station. The man called his office and they came that day and had them bailed. Both men were certainly dumbfounded by the situation they found themselves in. But like most Nigerians, they prayed and hoped that all would be well. Who believed that they were victims of police intimidation, even if they knew that they had been unjustly treated by the institution that ought to protect them. What were their options? The court, a giant corruption monster, seized there also. That evening, I was perplexed and unable to sleep on the bare floor. There were torn cartons that the people who were there before I came shared among themselves. As the day got darker, there was a story of pitch darkness with only a little strip of light coming into the scene. I sat on the floor, folded up my legs to my chest, and my mind was fully walking through the situation. At first, I blamed myself for engaging with Emeka in a business deal. Then I thought about my education and my assignment. I just began a new course term the first week of September. I was taking 2 courses, English Composition 2 and Greek and Roman Civilization. Both combined assignment required. The combined assignment requirements for both courses were 10 assignments per week. 34 hours weekly was the recommended time frame to put into the assignment. Therefore, I had a very tight schedule and time was very important to me. I used nights and Sundays to engage in my assignment. Daytime, I used it for my book selling business. The huge time that I put into the bus stop selling business seems ineffective for the income that I am making no longer measure up to the time input. Hence, I work very hard to either decrease my business time by investing the time into freelance writing job online, or to set up a warehouse book selling business where my sales would focus on fellow booksellers. If I should start up a warehouse selling books, it eventually become the platform for me to establish my first book outlet. Then the higher income I make can offset personal debt and be useful for business expansion. My education is a very important part of me, and for the knowledge and skills that I gain are useful for me to build businesses. As I was in the cell, there was no way to engage my assignments. That night, I thought of a plan to end the whole madness and get back to my life and quickly work hard to keep up with my assignment. 2 plans struck out clearly on my mind: to beg Emeka to end the escalated tension and allow me to re-engage my business, and the other to allow me to engage the business. And the other plan was for me to raise the amount on the 10 cartons of books just because of my time. Both plans were squashed by Emeka the next day. The police had the right to detain me for a maximum of 24 hours. Thus, the next day, Emeka had two options: to end the madness and settle with me, or to make the police charge the case to court. I wanted my time back to engage my assignment. I begged Emeka to settle with me so that I get my life back and engage in my assignment. He gave condition that I must pay him 200,000 naira for him to call off the madness. I refused and told him that I will raise the money. I will raise the price of the book more than the 70k just because of the time for my assignment. As none of us agreed, there was the only option of charging the issue to court. The papers got prepared and a tricycle was arranged by Emeka. I was handcuffed and sat in the middle of both the IPO and Emeka. The IPO told the driver to take us to Isolon Magistrate Court. My phone was dead, and Chris, my friend, was at the station when I was taken out to court. Chris joined me to beg Emeka and the police before we headed out to court. I thought about ways that I could get myself out as soon as possible. I was aware that I would be granted bail at the court, and my bail condition was to be perfected. What I didn't know was how the process of perfecting condition worked in Nigeria. I didn't know much about the unscrupulous ways lawyers at the court could frustrate people who have been given bail conditions to perfect. I had to learn this fact in a very hard way, in a very hard, unpleasant, and very frustrating way. As I got to the court, a fair, plumpy, elderly lawyer came to me. He asked if I was an Igbo man in the Igbo language, to which I replied yes. Then he asked me what happened in the English language. I explained to him. When I was done, he told me to say that the case should be attended in that court and that I should say that I am not guilty. Then I told him, then I would be given bail condition to perfect. I told him okay and thanked him. Then the female lawyer came to me and asked me what happened. As I was narrating myself, she said that the magistrate was ready for me. Then she said that I should agree that the case be addressed in that court and I should say not guilty at the charges that would be read to me. I was led to the magistrate's office. She sat in her executive chair. The lawyer was in complete obedience to her. She read the two count criminal charges that the IPO had charged me with, and I was asked if I wanted the case to be addressed at the court or not. I said that I want the case to be addressed at the court. Then she asked if I was guilty or not, and I replied not guilty. Then she read my bail condition of 100,000 naira and two shorties who have task clearance. I was led out. I asked the lawyer, whose name was Ade Ola Babalala, what would it cost me to be free that very day. I also told her that I am aware that the amount on bail terms will be adjusted by the lawyer, and I knew that she would engage commercial shorties. So what do I do to get out that same day? She asked if I had the two shorties, to which I said no. She said that the tax clearance is 15k for each person. I asked if 40k would get me out, for I only had that amount in my account. She said that I should bring it, but that the two shorties with combined tax clearance of 30k would be needed also. So I believe that the 40k and 30k, making 70k, will get me out. I was ignorant of the intricacies of perfecting bail terms, and I thought that the lawyer could have done better advising how the process was and what my inputs are. Her only concern was for me to contact my family. I told her that my family were far from me. They live in Abuja. My uncle, who lives in Lagos, hasn't been talking to me recently, and I didn't have his number at that time. She said if I can contact a friend or someone to help me from the outside. I told her that my phone was dead. She brought a charger, which I used to connect the phone to an electrical outlet. The phone came up and I called out Chris' number to her. Then she called Chris on her phone. I told him to go to my house and bring my ATM card. Then I also called my landlord. I relating the issue briefly to him, and that my friend Chris would come to my house to pick up something for me. I left my phone with the barrister to give Chris so that he would charge the battery for me. We went back to the station to the court. I had become a convict and would be sent to one of the Nigerian correctional centers to stay till I perfect my bailing condition, or till the court hearing, where I would be discharged or acquitted if I was proven not guilty. But I was taken back to the police cell due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced the prisons not to accept new inmates from the outside who may pose a risk of carrying the dreaded virus. Back to the police cell, I became a court-ordered inmate. The IPO had no hand on my issue anymore. I only have to perfect my bail condition, and the court will issue me a release document that one of my shorties would bring to the station and get me out. The lawyer ought to work quickly and get me out as soon as possible, but Barrister Adiola became a terrible, incompetent attorney who could not perfect my bail condition as minimal time frame as possible. In fact, it took her 36 days to perfect my bail condition, despite receiving 70K 7 days after I was arrested. She found it hard to have a well-structured plan of duty that should guide her daily activities so that she does her tasks smartly and on time. She lacks the ability to utilize resources, human, financial, and technological, to solve problems. I had in mind that she would perfect my bail condition just the same day that I gave her the money. Raising the 70K was hard for me. I only had 40K in my account at the time of my arrest. I wanted to take the money and find 30K to add. I talked to some of my customers to assist me, but they were disappointed that instead of calling them on a business issue, I begged for money. None gave me. I had to tell Chris to pick up $50 in my house, money that I budgeted for part of my exam fees. He took it and exchanged it for naira, which amounted to 20,000 naira, and he added his savings of 10K to make 30K to the 40K I had, and sent it to Adiola 7 days after my arrest. Then days of complicated judiciary activities began. The inefficiency of Adiola was obvious, and the complicated process of bailing was extremely awkward. 2 days after Adiola received the money, her tone of voice changed, and she was unable to engage two commercial shorties. Reality hit me that I had gotten into a deep quagmire. I quickly thought that the lawyer who I talked with on the day of my arrest could assist me. But he said that I had given money to someone else, and he could do nothing about it except if my family member decided to collect the money from the barrister and give it to him to get me out. I contacted my family in Abuja and told them about the situation that I was in. I did it because the 40K in my account was not accessible, as Chris couldn't withdraw the money due to my ATM card getting trapped by the ATM machine. So my family raised the 40K, which delayed me giving the money to Adiola. My lawyer friend, however, did not come to see me, even though he had become well. He blamed me for giving the money to Adiola instead of himself. And he didn't do much to prove to me that he wants me out of the problem I was in. He could have come and seen me. He could have arranged a good lawyer to assist me. He could have advised me not to make use of lawyers at the court, whom Nigerians call charge and bail lawyers. He didn't do any of those to help me. He refrained from helping me when I needed him most. Instead, he cited that I didn't give him money and that I gave the money to someone else. When Adela was still not finding her bearings, I begged my lawyer friend to help me. He told me that I was an inmate. I do not have the right to tell him to forcefully make Adiola either give the money back or hand over the papers to him. My family could do that for me. I told my uncle to collect the money from Adiola and give it to the lawyer's friend. Adiola said that she had taken 25,000 naira for her legal fees, and some had been used to run the process, and that two shorties had been engaged. They were confirming their houses and were working to perfect their details. Days passed. On the day that I thought I would come out, the barrister demanded that 40k more should be given to her to settle one of the shorties. My uncle didn't have any, and my family didn't see any need to send the money. This resulted to one of the shorties being disqualified. My uncle decided to take up the position of standing as my shorty. Unknown to him that the requirements were not simple. Even if they were simple, the unnecessary cumbersome ways things are done in Nigeria made the process energy sapping, frustrating and stressful. To be cleared tax-paying citizen, he needs a lastra among other tax documents. He had to go to various tax processing offices to get documents. To do this, he faced various encroachments to his time for his personal activities. He faced the Lagos state traffic and at times bad weather conditions. All the documents required money to process and get. My mother had to come from Abuja to Lagos to make sure that the money they were sending was properly used. After all the documents had been gathered, the magistrate in charge went on leave. She handed over the affairs of the court to a second magistrate who found fault in the document and asked for proper verification from the office that issued the document. On verifying the document, a certain amount had to be paid to readjust the document and to be more up to date. My family had to pay and get the documents of the two shorties more up to date, more updated. By the time the documents were ready, which was a Thursday, Adiola left the court before my uncle came with the document. The next day, on Friday, the magistrate did not come to court. She was afraid of coming out due to the roadblock by miscreant youth who took undue advantage of the EndSARS protest to barricade highways. Then on Monday, she still didn't come. By Monday, the protest had degenerated into a full-fledged riot. The police at the station which I was in were asked to arm themselves and shoot at any sign of civilian encroachment. They shot guns to the sky. Some climbed the fence to look out for the rioters. The SO was busy ditching out command to his boys to shoot. It was a chaotic atmosphere of fear. I thought to myself that, what about if, sorry, my lamp just fell off, okay? I thought of ways I thought to myself that what about if one crazy officer should come in and aim his gun at me and shoot? I thought of ways I could escape, but how? The cell were empty, only I was in the whole cell. The children who were staying at the other cell next to mine had been moved to juvenile detention home on Friday last week. My cellmate was released on Saturday, and the girl who was on the veranda cell was released on Monday, and I was alone and very scared. Gunshots by the police kept deafening my ears every now and then. I thought of my life was about to end miserable like this. My ideas, my vision, and my hope to add my quota in making Nigeria a great country would just end. For if a drunken policeman or a hot police officer should stroll in and see me, he could just aim his gun at me and kill me, and little nothing would be said about it. False allegation would be used to cover up the story, and I would be a dead person. How would my story be told? Will they say that I was attempting to escape and then they shoot at me? I could not help my condition other than hoping for the best. I hope that one of the police friends could help me to escape or to talk to the area commander to assist me to go, as in the only hindrance was the signature of the magistrate, and she had not been coming to the court. My hope became reality when my mother begged the IPO and house man that he should do something about me, as there was a riot and 24-hour curfew. Meanwhile, the IPO met on me on Monday and told me that the area commander wanted me to be moved to police headquarters to be safe. But since I needed the magistrate's signature to be out, he thought that it would be nice to hand me over to my uncle until the chaos subsides and the signature is gotten. The issue became something to keep a secret between us. The lawyer must not know to avoid unnecessary complications of the issue. I was allowed to leave on Wednesday, and I was to go in such a way that people who knew me would not see me, so that stories wouldn't get to the ears of the lawyer and she behaves erratically. Of the biggest lesson I learned about my situation was that poor police reports and investigation is a big problem affecting the Nigerian police force. The Nigerian police system is a monster of corruption. Nigerians are generally good people who are hardworking but are in terrible, ignorant state. So with this was my experience. So I'm going to continue in the video in another video. I've already taken over almost 2 hours now in this. So I'm going to take another video which would relate the problem affecting Nigerian society regarding the inability of the police force to make investigation. So I want to rest up and prepare for the next video. And I know this video is going to talk more about my experience and deeper about the experience of my cellmate concerning what brought them to court. I mean to cell, with what issue they had with police, how not investigating their case was prominent and also caused them dearly. Even if innocent people had to face serious charges that required the loss to their liberty. So I will continue on this, but for now, you've had my own part of the story.